Michael Isikoff reporting a really important and interesting story on Yahoo News. Isikoff, one of the better investigative reporters in the country, one of the best. And he explains that the FBI has uncovered evidence that foreign hackers penetrated 2 state election databases in recent weeks, prompting the Bureau to warn election officials across the country to take new steps to enhance the security of their computer systems, according to federal and state law enforcement officials. Now look, this is something that we've been worried about for a long time because it's just common sense. If this stuff's on a computer, computers can be hacked. And we've shown you how they can even hack into cars and then drive the car for you. Now that's frightening. Now, like the cars, there haven't been a lot of proven cases of people hacking into the voter databases, so it was just a theoretical worry. Now it's become a practical concern. So more from Isikoff here. The FBI warning contained in a flash alert from the FBI's cyber division, a copy of which was obtained by Yahoo News, comes amid heightened concerns among U.S. intelligence officials about the possibility of cyber intrusions, potentially by Russian state-sponsored hackers aimed at disrupting the November elections. Now, the Russian part of this story, I think, is relevant. I'll get more details for that in a second for you, so stay right here. But I think that it's incredibly worrisome no matter which country did it, no matter which entity did it. If it was inside the United States and it's a person who happens to be Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter, or just a troublemaker, it's deeply troubling that they can be hacked. But if it's a foreign government, Chinese, Russian, Saudi, doesn't matter, that's even worse. Okay, so we'll get back to the Russians in a second. But first, how deep is this problem? Well, Jay Johnson, who's the head of Department of Homeland Security, made it a lot more real recently. Johnson emphasized in the call that they put together that Homeland Security was not aware of specific or credible cybersecurity threats to the election, officials said. But 3 days after that call, the FBI Cyber Division issued a potentially more disturbing warning titled Targeting Activity Against State Board of Election Systems. The alert, labeled as restricted for, quote, need-to-know recipients, disclosed that the Bureau was investigating cyber intrusions against 2 state election websites this summer, including one that resulted in the exfiltration or theft of voter registration. So that is a huge problem. So let me begin to explain what's happening here. So it's not like they have evidence right now that the federal election system has been hacked into, rigged, or anything along those lines. That election has not happened yet, obviously. That happens in November. But what they've done is they've apparently infiltrated at least the state voting systems of 2 states, Illinois and Arizona. So let me give you details on that. In the Illinois case, officials were forced to shut down the state's voter registration system for 10 days in late July after the hackers managed to download personal data on up to 200,000 state voters, Ken Menzel, the general counsel of the Illinois Board of Elections, said in an interview. The Arizona attack was more limited, involving malicious software that was introduced into its voter registration system, but no successful exfiltration of data, as state officials said. So now here are state officials basically confirming what's happened. They infiltrate Arizona. In Illinois, they not only infiltrate, they get out data. Now, there's several theories as to why they might have done this. Now, one is maybe it's just a common criminal, and he wants to be able to take that data and then use it to be able to run fraud. It is entirely possible. It could be, like I said, other nations that are doing it, and it could be for a lot of different reasons. Any way you slice it, it's very concerning because we've got to make sure that no one can mess with the integrity of those elections. And once you put that down into people's heads, even that appearance is deeply troubling. Now, let's talk about who it might have been. So Rich Barger is the chief intelligence officer at Threat Connect, and they quote him here at the Yahoo News article. They say, Barger noted that one of the IP addresses listed in the FBI alert has surfaced before in Russian criminal underground hacker forums. He also said the method of attack on one of the state election systems, including types of tools used by the hackers to scan for vulnerabilities and exploit them, appears to resemble methods used in other suspected Russian state-sponsored cyber attacks, including one just this month on the World Anti-Doping Agency. Now, the connections they had to the DNC hacks, in my mind, were a little bit more speculative. But it's interesting that the World Anti-Doping Agency hacked, again, they think by some Russian forces, and it's very obviously hard to tell who's doing it. Even if it is Russia, who in Russia is doing it? But they've got a number of connections here. Now, look, the most important thing is to fix it no matter where it's coming from. But understand why, if it is Russia, it could be even more problematic. Because here is Donald Trump, who has apparently borrowed money from Russian interests, Russian oligarchs connected to Putin. He literally owes them money. He says nothing but glowing things about Russia as he's running for president. He indicates that he thinks that their annexation of Crimea is no big deal. He softens our stance on protecting Ukraine against Russia in the Republican platform and admits to it. It's a rare thing that he said while talking to George Stephanopoulos. Oh yeah, we did that. We softened it. And he encouraged publicly the Russians to hack into Hillary Clinton's emails even more. And then Trump goes around saying the elections are rigged, the elections are rigged. Now, look at why this is problematic in two different ways. Let's say Hillary Clinton wins. Trump's going to take a story like this and go, you see, you couldn't trust the voting system anyway. The whole thing was rigged, and so she's an illegitimate president. You should never accept her. You shouldn't accept the results of our democracy. And I mean, that's one of the great things about America, that we do things not through violence and not through coups, but through elections. He's saying, don't listen to that anymore. And now the other problem is, what if it is Russia? And what if they do hack it and then flip it in some states to Trump? Oh my God, then we've got holy hell on our hands. Because they will never, the Trump people will never, ever, ever admit to it. And they'll say, we won, we won, we won, we won. It doesn't matter if you have overwhelming evidence at that point that it was hacked. They will never, ever let it go. And then what are we going to do if you have two people with a claim to the presidency? Oh my, this is an incredibly important story. Okay. Now again, it hasn't gotten there yet. An election hasn't happened yet. But boy, they've got to take every precaution going forward. So more from Isikoff. Federal and state election officials say that the prospect of full-blown cyber attack that seriously disrupts the November elections is remote, but not out of the question. About 40 states use optical scan electronic voting machines, allowing voters to fill out their choices on paper. The results are tabulated by computers. Now, first of all, I think that's problematic because, yeah, you have a paper ballot. Most people don't check their paper ballots. What if the paper ballot's coming out differently? Yeah, you have a paper ballot, but then it goes to get counted in a different place. Now, I'm not an expert on that, but I think those are things that have to be double-checked, triple-checked, and boy, wish us luck on doing that. But it actually gets worse, because in 6 states and parts of 4 others, including large areas of Pennsylvania, a crucial swing state in this year's race, they are more vulnerable because they rely on the paperless touchscreen voting known as DREs, or direct recording electronic voting machines, for which there are no paper ballot backups. No. I don't know if 2 months is enough time to fix that. But we can't have things just being tabulated online. Come on, common sense. Common sense. Everything gets hacked into. The things that seem the most secure get our State Department got hacked into. Can they theoretically hack this stuff? Of course they can. And now they've begun to do it in real life, in practical terms, in 2 different states. So what are some of the precautions being taken? Well, here's one. Near the end of the article, they explain. In his conference call this month with state election officials, Johnson, Department of Homeland Security head, urged them to guard against potential intrusions by taking basic precautionary steps, such as ensuring that electronic voting machines are not connected to the internet while voting is taking place. Now, I'm glad they're taking some precautions, but that seems like the kind of thing you do with, I don't know, turn it on and off again. I hope they got a better plan than this, but do this too. Do this, do the paper ballots, do everything you can and have both sides monitoring it, have international actors monitoring it. It doesn't matter. Have everyone in the world monitoring it, because we cannot mess around with this stuff and we cannot have uncertainty, because one side will jump on that uncertainty and could use it to undermine our entire democracy. Look, it's not an overstatement. The guy is already saying that it's rigged. If there's anything that goes against him or for him, he's going to say, nope, 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 my side is right. I don't care what evidence you have. And then what are we going to do? If there are two people claiming they won the presidency, what are we going to do? I can assure you this, Trump is not going to be like Al Gore and go, oh, I guess you have the better evidence. I'll just step aside. This is a disaster in the making. They should redirect any and all resources immediately to make sure that they fix this in the little time that we have before November. Sign up for TYT membership. Get the whole 2-hour show ad-free. TYTnetwork.com/join.
Please believe me.